Welcome to My Life. We're talking with Edison Township trustee Ed Brakefield. You've been trustee for how many years now?
It'll be 20 years as of 2016.
2016.
Yep.
Now, if you followed us in our last episode, we went through Ed's adventures in the Navy during the Vietnam War. He was lucky enough to be assigned to Naval Intelligence in Hawaii, and we talked about how he met his wife, Catherine, there, and how eventually, once he was discharged, they made their way back to Michigan, where Catherine was from.
Yep.
And Ed went to work for Catherine's father. Now,
Yes.
tell us more about what kind of business that was.
It was a material handling business. They put in the conveyors for the auto plants, and they did an excellent job, and so they grew. They grew by leaps and bounds. And again, in the last segment I mentioned they were the second largest privately owned material handling or conveyor company in Michigan. So I was real proud of that. So Kathy's dad did have an opening for me when I got out of the Navy, and I jumped at the chance because it was a first-class company.
So what did he have you doing?
I was a buyer when I joined in. I worked along with the chief engineer, and he held my hand proverbial and taught me how to be a good buyer, and then I took off from that. And then it was shortly after that they put me as a senior buyer. I was the only one there, so I could take that title, and I stayed as a buyer for the whole career.
So you spent your whole
career
life with that company?
Conveyor-matic, yep, until my father-in-law retired. And he dispersed the company.
When was that?
2001.
Okay.
Right in that area. And then I went to work right after that for Steelmaster, right here in Oxford.
Oh.
And I loved working with them. Great people.
So did you bring your guitar along for any of this stuff?
I brought my guitar with me, yes. I've got, they're not the originals that I had back in the 60s. Not all of them. I do have part of them are the 60s. I still have the jazz bass of my dad's, the Bassman amp. These are all the old guitars and amps. And
some of those are worth some money, I'm sure.
Well, I've got a lot of Fenders, Fender Jaguar, Telecaster, Stratocaster, the jazz bass. It just goes on and on and on. I have a...
Our editor, Russ, is into that, and I can just see his eyes getting bigger and bigger as we talk about this.
The original Deluxe Reverb, the original Vibrolux Reverb. You're feeling good about that. So I've got all of them made in America. So those that I couldn't get, like my dad's jazz bass is a true 1965, 66
Right.
issue. So they are pretty nice guitars.
Did you still play at that time, or had you stopped?
At what time?
When you were in Michigan, come back to
No,
Michigan.
I played a little. I didn't join any groups or anything, and I just strummed on my own. And then Kathy had a different hobby than music, which was in the Arabian horses. And they started taking all of our time, the Arabians. So instead of playing every night, we would sometimes work at the farm until dark, and when we'd get home, I'd be so tired, the guitar would just sit there.
Sure.
And then it was actually the hobby, my hobby from music, kind of faded out, and it went over to the Arabian horses.
Let's talk more about the start of that. When you got to Michigan with Kathy, your wife, did your father-in-law, was he into Arabian
Yes,
horses?
he was. That's where it grew from. My father-in-law loved the Arabian horse, and
Was he into the contest, to the, I'm
Competition?
sorry, the competitions and all that?
No, my father-in-law just loved to raise them. He purchased a absolutely spectacular Arabian stud, and he had about 4 beautiful, beautiful mares.
Had you ever thought about horses before in your life ever?
Yeah, I had a quarter horse when I was growing up. Well,
Did you?
my sister did.
Okay.
My sister had a quarter horse, which I used. I liked to mooch off of her, and I rode Blue. It's a blue roan quarter horse named Blue, and I rode Blue everywhere. And my poor sister, who owned Blue, didn't get to ride as much as I did. But so I knew how to ride, and I was pretty efficient at riding because we did a lot of riding back in Alabama. But when I came to Michigan and I saw the Arabian horse, there was a love affair instant love affair. The Arabian is, and maybe I'm a little prejudiced, is probably one of the most beautiful horses and the most intelligent horse. So it's a little cut above the training of the Arabian and everything. You have to think and let the Arabian think it thought of the idea.
Now, I want you to tell me a little bit about how this evolved. Were you living at your father-in-law's ranch, or did you guys buy a ranch?
No, we bought a condominium. When we first got married, my wife had saved up money. I didn't have as much saved up because of the Navy, and I like to spend things and everything. And again, I appreciate
What had she
my
been
wife.
doing? What did
she was a secretary for that same company.
Oh.
Yeah, so she had worked all the way through high school. When she was in high school, she went to work for her dad. So, in being a young lady, instead of spending on dates, she would bank her money. So she had enough that we could buy the condo. And so Kathy bought the condo. And when we moved up here, and then we'd go up to the farm and work. And then I caught up by being a buyer. Again, the Navy didn't pay that much when I got out. She bought what you see is what you get.
Sure.
And then I tried to work my way up to try an efficient family member.
So you were going to your father-in-law's ranch for a while to deal with the Arabians
Every
and
night.
so forth. Yeah,
Almost every night to
And where
feed,
were you?
water.
Where were you guys actually
We were
living?
in Warren, off
Okay.
of right close to 13 Mile Road,
And your father-in-law was where?
about 2 blocks away from us.
Oh, so it wasn't that far away.
No, but the farm was right here in Addison Township.
Oh, okay, okay,
So-
very good.
So when I married Kathy, the Alpha Curtis Road, the farm there was there, and the horses were there. So we would take care of them in the morning, go to work, come home, and go back up to the farm and stay till dark.
How many horses did you have back then?
At that time, all total, I think he had probably 16.
Wow.
Yeah, 16 horses. And we would take care of all of them and groom them and clean them and feed them and make sure everybody's bedded down. And yes, we mucked the stalls and everything like that. So it was a full job.
Now, at what point, you and Kathy have a couple of children. At
Yes.
what point did the kids come along?
What do you mean?
When were they born?
Kim was born in 76.
Okay.
Derek was born in 82.
Okay, so you had kids to take care of too when you were going
Yeah.
through all this stuff.
Yeah, but since then, we had, their horses were staying at the farm. We bought and built our house here off of Curtis Road, and we moved our horses over to our place. So they had other people taking care of the horses at the farm. We took care of the horses at our place, and it's grown to be
Wow.
a beautiful facility.
I'm sure it has.
Yeah.
We're going to take a brief break right now, but we'll be back with more of the story of Ed Brakefield. Don't go away.
Hi, I'm Connie from Connie's Kitchen, and normally we'd be shooting from Treetop Lodge, but we're on location today at an alpaca farm. This is shearing season, and Matt and Katie, the alpaca barbers, have been in town for the last couple days, shearing all the animals. As you can see behind me, these girls are all ready for spring. A lot of people have been visiting the lodge for a luncheon and coming over here to the farm to see the animals and to purchase the fleece directly off the animals, 100% pure alpaca. So we've had a lot of fun over at the lodge. We had lunch and we're feeding everybody breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And now we're over here, and no, we're not planning on doing any cooking here in the field. You know, we're just enjoying and visiting. And we've got a lot of stuff coming up at the lodge, so you want to catch us on OCTV and on YouTube and on Facebook. And you can even call me directly, 248-933-4579. Check out our wine dinners. We have a murder. We know we have a murder coming up in July. We actually have scheduled a murder. And a whole lot of other stuff, scrapbooking and spinning and weaving and, well, just about anything you can imagine we're doing at the lodge, so long as it's quiet and dignified. Well, I don't know about dignified, but quiet. So catch us daily, I think, on OCTV. Catch us anytime on YouTube. And very soon, I will start a new series where we will start filming more shows from the lodge and from various locations like this. I can't bring a barbecue grill in here by the alpacas. That wouldn't be a good idea. But we'll do some outdoor cooking too. So in the meantime, keep watching, let me know what you think, and watch for our new shows.
Back with Addison Township trustee Ed Brakefield, and we're talking about your early experiences on your father-in-law's farm, raising Arabian horses, and eventually getting your own farm out in Leonard, correct?
Yep, Addison Township,
Okay.
off of Curtis Road.
And that was back in the 1970s.
Yep.
And you had your first child back in that era too, as I
76,
recall.
right.
So you were working for your father-in-law in kind of an executive position. You were raising Arabian horses, you and your wife, and you had a new child.
Yep.
So you guys were pretty busy.
We're busy. We decided back in 1975 to build a house here off of Curtis Road, fairly close to the farm. And like all new families, we wanted to be a family on our own. And we did have our own horses at the farm at Nibbs's Arabian farm.
Let me just ask you this while I'm thinking of it. The original farm that your father-in-law had, did that go back a long ways in his family?
Oh yeah, not his family, but it went back a long ways in Addison Township.
Really?
The people that owned the White Horse Inn in Metamora,
Oh,
the Hordes owned our house, the farmhouse. And at one time it was on Roland Road, and the Hordes actually moved it. And back then I have no clue how they did it, but it was on Roland. They moved it to Curtis. And when they got everything battened down, so it was an old house, we were privileged to have we went down to the basement and we saw a signature called Marguerite Horde. Marguerite Horde was the last of the Hordes here in Metamora, of the White Horse Inn Hordes. It took a picture of that. It was off on the plaster, and Marguerite, I gave it to the White Horse to pass it on to the Horde family.
wow.
Yeah, so the house went a long way back, but my father-in-law purchased the farm and brought in his first Arabian horses way before my time. My wife was a young teenager at the time when they got their first
So,
horse.
Probably in the, what, 1940s, 1930s?
No. It was in the, I would say it was in the early 60s.
That he
when
bought his
And he
farm.
bought his first, when he bought Raymar, the Arabian stud,
Mm-hmm.
and really,
What perked his interest in that, do you know?
the Arabian, he liked the horses. They had ridden. My father-in-law and mother-in-law had ridden all their lives. They would ride in the Hun attire with the English saddles. And then later in life, my father-in-law and mother-in-law went to riding Western, and then they retired, the age caught up with them, and they decided to retire from riding. And they lived their riding through us. So they enjoyed watching us ride as much as it was them on their back. And I'm starting to feel the same way. So I'm starting to see where they were
Sit up
enjoying
straight.
it. Yeah, so I've got two grandsons that are growing to be absolutely beautiful riders.
So how did you get, okay, so I guess it was only natural that you'd get started with competitions, especially with your wife's interest in the subject and the fact that your in-laws had participated as well.
Yeah, well, I guess we were pretty young when we were into the Arabian. We started thinking more like get the special breeds and trying to work for an ideal horse. And then when, I guess when our children were about 8 years old, Kim was about 10, I take that 8 or 10, right in that area, we decided to try competing with the horses. So we would do the lead lines and things like that. And then we started competing a little better and better. So we started progressing to where we started competing in Class A shows. And
Did they have those right around here, or did they?
State Fair.
Oh, okay.
State Fair was a Class A
Oh.
show. We would go to the State Fair, and then they had in let's see, London, Ontario was a class show.
Mm-hmm.
Then the biggest Class A show that we went to, and we were really, really privileged for that, we went to Lexington, Kentucky, and we competed at Lexington at the horse park there about 5 times. So we really, 5 years running. So we really had a good
Well,
show.
our
for it.
station manager, Bill Service, would know something about that because he lived in Lexington, Kentucky.
Oh,
In
he
fact,
would be very
He had
familiar
a horse
with
farm
Kentucky
down
Horse
there for a
Park.
while.
Now I'm jealous of Bill because I would love to have a horse farm in Lexington, Kentucky. That's where my heart is now, is going to the Lexington area.
Okay, so where are you at right now as far as the horses are concerned?
Our last baby is going to be trained in July. We just lined it up today, as a matter of fact. She's going into final training, and she's going to be, I use the word loosely, broke to ride. They do not break an Arabian to ride. They teach Arabian to allow us to get on its back. Again, an Arabian is a unique animal. And
Tell us what's special about Arabian horses.
they have an intelligence level, and you can, okay, let's relate it to the dog. You have the dogs, and all of a sudden you have this, what is it, the English, where the sheepdog?
Yes.
It's supposed to be a real high intelligence, and you can almost teach that what to do that the other dogs can't figure out what to do. Well, the Arabian horse has an intelligence that it can think what you're, it's almost like a dog. You can call one horse, we can call one horse out of our pasture. That one horse will come up to us, and the other 6 or the other 5 will stay eating its grass. That gives you an idea at the intelligence level. When you're training a horse, an Arabian horse, you have to go slow, very, very slow. With a typical horse, you can bring it into the arena, lunge it a few times, work with it a little bit, and hop on its back and start teaching it. With an Arabian, you have to work very slow with it. The first month is usually just lunge line groundwork and everything like that with the Arabian. You have to establish a camaraderie with each other. And once you have established a good camaraderie, for an example, my wife's horse, I can't ride my wife's horse. It's a miserable ride. She can ride it, and it's a perfect ride because that horse likes her, and it doesn't know me that well. So that's the camaraderie it's got. They're people horses. They're very people oriented.
Is there, if you wanted to buy another Arabian horse?
Don't even go there.
No, you do probably. But your wife says no, right?
No, I'm saying no. We're both. We're getting older. We're time to retire from
No,
the
but just
horses.
curiosity, is there a particular part of the country that you would go to for that, or,
No, we would look at the breeding. We would look at the, once the breeding is there, we would get photos, we'd look and see how the horse's conformation is and its personality and its attitude. We'd look at its show record. If there is a good show record, it doesn't have to have a good show record, but as long as it's got good breeding. And we will go, basically, the last horse we just purchased, we bought it right out of North Carolina. So we drove down to North Carolina and picked it up and brought it back.
Now, what about your kids? Did they pick up on all this? Are they
yes.
involved with Arabians?
Matter of fact, I mentioned earlier I have 2 grandsons that's looking great. Well, my daughter and son rode most of their lives.
Wow.
And then now we're feeding it over to my grandchildren.
So you're living vicariously through them now?
So now when I see our grandchildren riding, my wife and I feel just as satisfied as if we're up there on the horse's back.
That's great. We have to take a break now, but we'll be right back with Ed Brakefield. Don't go away.
Your local business.
Your police department.
Your local business.
Your village of Oxford.
The schools. Your parks and recreation.
Your community.
Your community.
Only on OC TV.
Back with Ed Brakefield here on My Life. Of course, Ed is a longtime trustee in Addison Township, and we've been talking about your experience with horses in our last segment. But there's some other things you've been involved with, and one of them is, did you know Ed is green? well, not really green, but he's, you know what I'm trying to say. In fact, there was an article back in, I think, 2009 that was written about some things that you installed on your farm. Tell us about that and how you got interested in it.
Well, we decided to try going green, not me becoming green, but going green. So what we did, we put two wind turbines on our property, two turbines that are rather nice. Both have, like, they have a 12-foot wingspan, and each one generates about 3.5 kilowatts of power. Detroit Edison gave us a purchase order to buy our power to put it back in the line, which was kind of nice, but unfortunately, we've never made enough current to take advantage of that purchase order, but it's nice, and it's on my wall, a purchase order from Detroit Edison. But it does cut half of our power down.
Now, how'd you go from horses to windmills?
Oh, it's just utility. We did that. We saw it. We saw magazines about the wind turbines. At that time, it was really the wind turbine was the in thing for alternate energy. Now it's the solar panels. But then it was and it really got our interest into that. And we thought, okay, to run a equestrian center like we've got, or the farm, Camelot Arabians is its name. It's very power usage is really high. We have the lights in the arena, we have the lights in the stable, we have the lights in our house, we have an in-ground pool, so it's drawing a lot of power, and we figured, what else can we do to save energy? And we did put the two turbines up, and it did cut our utility really, really good.
And we're
it
not
didn't
talking,
kill it,
yeah,
cut it down.
we're not talking about itty-bitty fans here.
No,
I mean,
they
these,
stand
how
up
tall are these?
45 feet up in the air. And
And-
like I mentioned earlier, each one has its own 12-foot wingspan, prop span. And they each one put off 3.5 kilowatts of power. So we're looking at 7 kilowatts running 24/7, or when the wind's blowing. And it's kind of unique. That's what everybody envisions. The wind turbines are when the wind's blowing, and they're beautiful and everything. But when the wind dies down in Michigan, you've got two beautiful metal sunflowers standing out there, just standing there, not moving at all. And you're wondering, where's the power going? And that's why we're directly linked with Edison. So they're not going into batteries. They go right directly into our lines. So we're not too worried about that.
Now, not everybody buys windmills, so tell us about it. Well, there's a process you probably have to go through to, first you have to decide you want to do it.
Yep.
And then you have to decide who you're going to buy them from, and you probably have to get some permits or whatever. Tell us a little bit about all that.
Well, first off, you go through the magazines. You try to find the best turbine you can for the price. They have to be approved by OSHA. They have to be approved by Edison.
So the government's involved.
Oh, yeah. And because this is a utility. Then you go locate them where you would like to see them. Then I go to Addison Township, pull the permits. Mike Boisfort is the inspector. He came over to verify this is fine where you're wanting them, will work. Not too close to the buildings, not too close to the property line. It meets the ordinances. We do have to meet all the ordinances. And then when we decided to do it, then we contacted the company that supplied the SkyStream in this area, and they came up and we worked together to put them, install them.
Yeah. Before I forget, how many horses do you have now?
Right now, we own 4. My daughter has 2 at our house, so it gives us a total of 6 at our house right now.
And do you plan on continuing along with the horses, or what are you
Yeah,
thinking?
the horses, again, she's got the 2 horses for our grandchildren. They'll be, they're improving their training right now, and they'll be taking those 2 horses to their home so the kids can ride them there. It leaves us 4. And one of our horses is going training in July. That'll leave us 3, but we'll be getting them back. She'll be there for 3 months to 4 months in training, and then they'll come back. I used to ride them out and train them myself, but I'm getting a little too old to hop on an unbroken horse. So we'll send them to a professional. But as far as the horse shows are going, we've decided to let the grandkids, we will take them and our children if they wanted to go in the shows. and they're welcome to go.
And the
we will-
grandkids are interested too, huh?
Yes, they've got a training class tonight. So
Do they really?
Yep, at 4 o'clock today, we're going over there and watching them practice. So this is exciting.
You know, I can tell as I listen to you talk about your family that you have a definite interest in history and genealogy.
Yep.
And I think one of the things in your life that exemplifies that is what you had to do with the old schoolhouse out in your area. Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that project, would you?
Yeah, this all started. We all living in Addison Township, driving Lakeville Road, would pass the Lakeville Church and would see the old schoolhouse there, and you'd probably just see it, but you kind of forget it's there. And then I saw an article in the paper that the fire department wanted to burn it down. And one citizen, and I can't remember her name, this has been a while back,
Sure.
said, please don't burn it down. And she's appealing to anyone that would listen. And we decided in the township to not burn it down. The church owned it, we didn't, so the church decided to sell it to us. If we wanted to save it, let it be our school. So we bought it for a huge sum of $1. So we own that now. And through Bruce Pearson, our supervisor, we got to work on it, started getting collections, and Bruce, God bless him, one of the best supervisors Addison's ever had, went out and got volunteers to do things. We got volunteers to do moving the school, and we moved the school from Lakeville Road up to our park up on Rochester Road. So, and that's where it is now. And with volunteer help, we got to do some finish work on it. And that's what people in Addison do. They all come together to help volunteer to make our township better. All you have to do is ask. Just ask. And most people will say, absolutely, you just didn't ask me to do this. A good example, we had roofing. And who's going to put it up? Just ask. So I asked one of the local roofers, hey, do you mind putting the roof on? They said, sure, we can put it up on a Saturday. It'll take us one day. They went up, the roof was on a Saturday, no charge. And it was
Are you
what we
using
did.
the building for anything right now? or-
Not yet. It hadn't been finished off completely, but it's so close. We've got the basement done. We did put a basement in. We've got heating going in it. Even at that time the school didn't have heat, but we have to because we're soft now.
Yeah.
But we are, right now, I'm asking, we're looking for an old stove that would be used for a school that stands about 4 feet high, that if anybody would like to donate it, we would be happy to put their name on it and said donated by this family. So that's one thing that we're looking for is a old schoolhouse style potbelly or a wood burner stove. It will not be used, so it's got to, if it's broken and says it's defective or whatever, as long as it's there, it's going to have a rope around it and saying this is the style of wood burner that they used. So,
Okay, you got that?
so we're looking.
Ed, it's been a pleasure to have you. I'm going to ask you one last question
Okay.
before we go. If you had to do anything over again, would it be the same?
I would do the same. I'm happy with my life. I think I dedicate it to God, and God's been good to me, so it's a fair trade.
Sounds like it. Thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
And thank you for joining us. See you next time. You're watching OCTV, Oxford Community Television, serving Oxford, Addison Township, and the village of Leonard.